So now we're assuming that we are well into our scanning. We've been sending information to the cloud, and we want to come and review it in Basis and take a look at what we can do with that information and what we have in here. So we go to inventory, then inventory counting. It's going to prompt us to import the data from the cloud. We're going to say yes because no, we want to actually get the data from the cloud. What happens here on the different screen, it opens a black box that actually opens the communication, and then we also want to refresh the scan data. So the easy way is to always say yes to everything, and that just basically simplifies it. So this is what we've scanned so far. So my grid that was empty before, where actually after I cleaned up all the table, is now showing me a listing of the items that have been scanned. And if I click on any of the item, I can see at the bottom the breakdown of the item. So for example, the first item I've scanned 26, and it's showing me that I scanned 24 in A1 and 2 in A2. So if I compare to what my system says I should have, it says I should have 49. So obviously I hopefully haven't finished counting this item. The advantage here is that I'm able to go in and check where I've counted those items so far, so I'm able to identify if I find more items whether they've been counted or not. If I need to make a change, all I have to do, let's say I find more in location A2, I can actually change it directly from here and click on adjust count by location, and what that will do is that will allow me to just update the count. So I've just updated this, so now I have 46 here. So this is how we adjust inventory if we found it. Obviously the other way would be to go and scan the remaining item. That would actually be better, but at some point we just want to make adjustments on the desktop. The other thing that we can do is we can actually add items manually on the desktop. So let's say for example I find another one, I can click on the button here that says add manually by selecting a warehouse and the part number. Selecting a warehouse and the part number will allow me to just pick the part that I'm supposed to count, put in the quantity. So this is exactly the same thing as if we had done it on the device. We can also enter the location. If the item was lot numbered or serialized, it would have prompted me here to accept it. And then when I accept it, it basically will put it in the same queue as the data that will come from the cloud. So when I say OK, and I hit refresh again, and it imports my data from the cloud, now I'll have that item as well here. So this is the item that I've just counted. So this one is showing me that on hand I have 0 and I've just counted 12. So again, it doesn't really matter what the system is telling me I have. Ultimately what we want is to count everything that we have and represent it here. If we were looking for something specific, I only have a few items on the screen, but if I had thousands or hundreds, if I'm looking for something specific, I can put just the part number here, or a portion of the part number, and hit search, and it'll filter it out so that then I can see exactly for that item. So if I were supposed to change it, I would be able to change it. There's a few other options here. So what I did here is I put the part number and I hit search. When I click on reset, it releases the search criteria. The other options up here that we have is we can also do a search by product code. We can do a search by location. So if I wanted to see everything that I've scanned in location A1, I would put location A1 here and hit search. And I can see now that all the items that I have put into location A1 are now showing up on my grid. Again, I'm going to hit reset. I have an option to click any item that's greater than 1,000. So the idea here is if by accident we scan a UPC code in a quantity field, we're easily able to identify it here. So obviously here, because I don't have any items where I counted more than 1,000, it filters to nothing. Now it's possible that we have items that we count more than 1,000, but typically at least we'd be able to identify it and to narrow it down. If the item is lot numbered or serialized, we're supposed to capture lot numbers or serial number as well, and they would show on, for example here, they would show on here, we're able to capture the serial number or the lot number, the expiry date. If we're using SKID ID functionality, we also would be able to capture that on the scanner, and all this information would be displayed here. So this is basically our working tool. We're getting all this information as we're scanning, and it gets combined. No matter how many scanners we have, they will all come down here, and we're able to see right from here what we have. At any time we can hit on refresh up here, And what that will do is that will make a call to just get the information from the cloud and bring it so that we can refresh whatever we scan. So every time we scan 20, 30 items as people are scanning, the people on the person that's handling the desktop can just click hitting refresh and they'll get all the information. So once this information becomes more complete, one of the things that we can start doing as part of the process of verifying the count is to print reports. So there's a whole bunch of reports. I'm not going to go into all of them. The two that I'm going to focus on is the discrepancy report of the scanned item. So what this report gives me a recap of every item that was counted, how many I'm supposed to have, the discrepancy. I also have a discrepancy in dollar value, not in the sample because we removed the cost, but the dollar value would help you evaluate whether it's worth paying attention to. And it would also give you a value of the full value of the inventory that you've counted up to date. So this only shows you the item that you've scanned. So if you've scanned at least once, then it would be on that report, even if the system says you're supposed to have 1,000. If you haven't scanned it at all, then it would be on the other report that we call the non-scanned item report. And what this one does, this will give you everything that you haven't scanned to date and also with a value. And at the end of this report, you get a total value. So what that allows you to do is it allows you to compare how far in you are with your count. So the sum of your scanned item plus your not scanned item gives you your total value of inventory, and the sum of that what has been scanned gives you what you have scanned to date as part of the total value of the inventory. So the process is fairly straightforward. Once you select a report, there is also an Excel export here that you can click on. If you make a mistake and you want to remove an item, you can just highlight it and hit delete. So what we have here is we have the search box, we have the reset, we have the add manually, we have the delete. At the bottom, we have the review of the details of each scan. So the top shows me the total of all the items in scan. The bottom shows me the recap. How the bottom is constructed is that it'll actually group any item that has the same part number, same quantity, same location, same lot number, same expiry date. So if I have the same item in two different locations but with a different serial number and expiry date, or lot number and expiry date, then it will separate them. But if they're together in the same location, then it will group them. Any change that I need to make, I make it here and I click on adjust count by location. When I'm completely finished my count, we recommend usually to back up your system, and after you've backed up your system and you're ready to send it back, there is three steps that are required. The first one is to decide, do we want to add the item that we did not scan to the inventory count? So I just looked at a report that shows me what my items that hadn't scanned were, and now I have all these items. If I decide that these items are truly not in stock and I don't want them in my inventory anymore, then I can add them to the count. To do this, I just click on this button here, which based on the filter criteria that I had at the beginning, will allow me to add the item to the count. So what just happened now is all these items that were in my inventory but I haven't counted are now being included in my count, but the value of the count is 0. So now if I do a discrepancy report, it will represent all the items and I'll be able to have a better picture of everything that I counted. And obviously all the ones that I didn't count are showing up as a 0 value, and they're all going to represent a negative discrepancy, which will remove some of the value of my inventory. So you have to use that with a lot of precaution to make sure that once you click that button, that's only after you've done your complete due diligence and you've looked everywhere for those items. At the end of the day, if the items are not there, you want to remove them, that's when you click that button. So in this case here, there would be a lot of items that would be removed, and that's probably not realistic, but normally you try to have as many items as possible in the scanned item report, as little as items as possible in the not scanned item report. At the end, you combine the two to give you your final report. That final report is what's going to give you the value of your inventory, and that should match up with your accounting system once you've uploaded that. So there's two more steps. So the first step was to add the non-scan item to the inventory list. The second step is to add the item to our master location table. What that will do is, this is only for basis. Because we've counted the item, we've basically reset our inventory to the proper locations, to the proper quantities. Once we've finished all our discrepancy analysis and we've counted as many as we can and we've looked for everything that we couldn't find, as I said, we're going to add the item that we haven't scanned. Then we're going to send that information to basis so that it basically knows that we where those items are going forward. So when we do that, we reset the complete set of locations within Basis that the scanner will be looking for, because Basis has dynamic locations. But at inventory time, we want to clear that up. So by doing that now, what it does, it just allows me to remove everything. I also have the option to clear any history for these items and start fresh. We completely empty all the tables and say, okay, our inventory point is where we're actually starting. So I'm going to say no in this case. And then the final option is to send the location to the cloud server, so that when the iPad is actually working, it's actually talking to the cloud. So we want to make sure that it knows this information. So when you do that, it just opens a screen that just communicates with the cloud and sends all that information. So when I'm done, I finished the second step, which is this is all for Basis. So adding the count and adding the item to the master location table, that only affects Basis. Once I'm done and I want to export this information, for Business Vision and BV Essential, we do it directly from Basis. For Sage 300 and AccountMate, we do it from the accounting package directly. So here, if I click on Export to Business BV Essentials or Spire, it'll create an inventory adjustment. In BV, it'll adjust the inventory. Once this process is done, we're finished the inventory. The accounting system has been updated. Basis is ready. We can leave the information here for future reference for the next few days to make sure that if we find something fishy in the accounting package, we always have the ability to come back and look at it. The final step would be to come back here before we do the next inventory and clean up the table, but there is no rush to clean them up until we need to count again. This can stay here for a month, 2 months, however long we need. So this covers pretty well everything. There's a few other minor functionality, like looking for missing lot numbers or totaling lot numbers if we've scanned them in multiple locations. These are very, very minor, so I'm not going to worry about that. 95% of the people that use the system only use the functionality that I've highlighted here. And from this, that completes our inventory count.